this time. Ciao, hi, hey guys, it's your boy M.K.S here, back with another video. In my last video I had a few technical issues, certainly on Facebook, and then it seemed to say something about connection unstable, and there's something on YouTube where it says unable to upload your video, and then after about 10 seconds it uploads anyway, and hopefully uploads well. So I don't know what that technical issue is, something maybe YouTube should look into perhaps. On that note, if there's anything you would change about Facebook, Android, or YouTube, I'd love to know in the comments what you would change. Talking about comments, please drop any comments you have on any opinions I share, or thoughts, or whatever. Anything you want to comment, please feel free to do so as ever. But yeah, it seemed like I had a few technical issues. Hopefully the video's recorded as well as possible. I always want to, for the videos to record as well as possible and to be kept for as long as possible. I have this strange sort of thing, like even if I write, one of my brothers mocked me because a while back, because he says even if I write a line, if you delete it or whatever, I get really annoyed. So I sort of like to keep things as they are. It's a strange sort of thing I have. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, I hope I remember the points I was going to cover. But these are, I'm focusing on the Facebook screen, and these are pointers number 21 to 30 as per usual. I think that covers everything for the intro. But yeah, I have this strange thing, as I say, where I want to keep things. I guess that goes with hoarding. So like, say Facebook or YouTube, heaven forbid, hopefully they won't, but if they delete more, sometimes it seems like they've deleted one of my videos, like, or many of my videos, like I've gone back and I've clicked on something where I've shared a link from my video and it says this is not available anymore. And I've tried to find videos I've made on like things like Dyslexic Millionaires or things like that, and it's been deleted, or it seems to have been deleted or something like that. So I hope I'll get them back, but I like to keep things for as long as possible. But anyway, I won't go too much into that, but here goes. So point number 21, I did mention in part 2 that I would talk about a review of the game as far as I remember it. So I phoned my dad and I said I'm going to go to watch the game, and he said, I don't think I'll be able to make it, because yesterday I told him I was going to say, by the way, I'm thankful, feeling a lot better, thank God, today, because my eyes were really sore, my forehead was sore, and other parts of my body started aching, at least two or three other parts of my body. I got out of breath even going for a walk, and things like that. Probably in the latter case because I eat too much and have a bad diet and that kind of thing. But I used to walk everywhere pretty much, and now I struggle to walk around the block without getting tired. But I did go for a full 4 mile or so walk, roughly, I guesstimate, which took me about an hour or so to go and watch again. But yeah, my dad said he couldn't make it, but in his defence, I guess something came up, and also I did say I was touch and go whether I'd be well enough. But thankfully, this morning I haven't, and today I didn't have any pain. It's already 11:30 at night, but I didn't have any pain today, thank God. But yesterday, I mean, I had about 20 painkillers throughout the day because I had a bit of pain. But anyway, I went to watch the game. I walked over, and then I was late, so I missed the kickoff. And thankfully, Celtic were 1-0 up. But I did, as usual, I thought I don't want to celebrate too early, but that's looking good so far, so good. I hope it stays like this, but I know in games in the past, like against the Rankers, we were 1-0 up and we blew it. I know that was under a different manager, but anyway, then I thought our passing was really poor. It's really laboured, if that's the right word, like really poor passing. We just couldn't seem to get ebb and flow, like we couldn't seem to get simple passing together. And I always panic, especially when defenders get the ball. And we kept going back to the goalkeeper, which is another thing I wish we'd just go forward. We seem to have that problem. And so I was trying to say, get the ball forward. I guess people in the pub probably think, when I shout, they're like, what is this guy going on about? And like, I point and say, whatever, come on. And they're like, what am I trying to say? But I thought the 50-50 balls, like Hearts, I don't want to maturely call them farts, were winning those. And anyway, so at half time, I mean, there's one where a trustee made a mistake. One of our centre-backs, Trusty, made a mistake, and I thought Scales and Trusty seemed to be... I think Trusty wasn't too bad for much of the game, but in the second half, he got sent off, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. But he made a really bad mistake, and Kasper Schmeichel saved us. I mean, I've been critical, as many people have, I think, about some mistakes Kasper Schmeichel's made, but from what I saw of the game, he made at least one, if not two, really good saves to keep us ahead at that time and that kind of thing. So that kept us at one. And I thought if we do win this game by a goal, we could look back at that and think he saved our bacon. It's a funny one for a vegetarian today, but he saved us there. And Trusty should be very thankful. He should probably buy him a pint for that one or whatever. I don't know that encourage drinking, but he should probably try and buy him a drink or something. I don't know if he drinks or whatever. But anyway. But yeah, then I went to get my Subway for lunch or brunch, so dinner or lunch slash dinner, slash dinner. But it took me a while, and then I missed two goals. One was for Celtic, and one unfortunately was for Hearts, my Hearts. And sorry for my immaturity, but and I'm trying to think of anything else happened in the game. But then also I went to Nip to go. Well, we hope not too much info, but if it was the other thing, I probably won't mention it. But anyway, I came back and I saw we had Trusty got sent off. So one, he nearly gave away a goal once. Secondly, he got sent off, which I think was probably quite a harsh sending off. I know they say he was the last man, but I think I don't know if it was Callum McGregor or someone else who was covering it, and potentially could have got to that ball. So there's no guarantee. And I know people think that was certainly Celtic supporters think that was very harsh. Red card as far as I'm aware, but he did put himself in that position. In fact, I actually saw back the clip, and I don't know if I'm probably being harsh on Trusty because I don't know if it was even a foul. I think the other guy pushed him probably even first before and I don't know if he did anything but stood there. So maybe that could be looked into, but I suppose it's too late unless Hearts are going to get 3 points deducted or something if they're found guilty of unfair decisions by the ref, perhaps. But so that put us under a lot of pressure. But I was hoping we'd be able to hold on, and unfortunately, they got a goal. I was hoping that would be ruled offside. It was very close. I don't know if they looked at it, but they should have done. So yeah, unfortunately, we drew 2-2, which I guess is favourable to, again, excuse the expression, but as I call them, farts. They're harsh on me, but they are one of the enemies, the second biggest enemy, I guess, for Celtic. But yeah, they scored a goal. They scored the equaliser, and then it was a case of like they could score more. And then we had 8 minutes of injury time. I thought, oh my goodness, I hope we get a miracle, some sort of goal. And that they probably had a couple of chances. I think we defended quite well considering we were playing down again. And I wish we didn't focus too much on Europe, because if we rested players there, I think they would have been fresh. Maybe the passing would have been better, had more energy, and that kind of thing. And in Europe, we got players sent off as well. Maida got sent off, so which was probably another harsh decision against Celtic. There, I'd have to look at it again. But they say he put himself in that situation, I guess. But and right at the end, we had a free kick. I was hoping someone would get that ball into the box, and someone would get the head on it. And I don't know why we didn't get it to a tall striker, a tall new striker who's about 6'5" or something like that, or 6'3" or something like that. But yeah, I don't know why we didn't get it into him. But yeah, I missed quite a bit of the game. I missed I missed 3 of the 4 goals. I missed the first goal that we scored, and I missed 2 in between that. So I did miss quite a bit of the game, unfortunately. But yeah, I was hoping we'd get a goal right at the end. But I think the result does favour Hearts rather than us, I guess. And I fear that maybe it's going to be their season this season, at least in the league, and we have to focus on a cup. Not technically we don't have to, but we're probably going to focus on the cup. And in Europe, I just wish we could rest players and play fringe players, and each league game to me should be like a final now for Celtic. Yeah, that's what I can remember of the game. Sadly, we got players sent off. Unfortunately, we drew. It could have been worse. I know it's first world problems, I was going to say, but yeah, moving on. So that was a review of the game. One other thing I wanted to say for point number 21 is I would love for people of Irish descent, think about supporters of and investing into the club. I'd love for all possible people of Irish descent around the world, given the club's roots, to support Celtic. Anyone who's got Irish blood and is proud to be part Irish or whatever, fully or part Irish, all around the world, from America, even maybe Argentina, Canada, even Brazil, if there are Irish people in Brazil or people of Irish descent. Certainly, obviously, America's a big one, Australasia. I know we already have supporters in those places, but I hope we'll get even more like Scottish Irish, but especially those basically people of Irish descent around the world. I talk about like Catholics supporting Celtic to get one back on our rivals and their hatred for Catholics and Catholicism and that kind of thing, and the songs they sing. But they also sing like up 20s in Fenian blood and things about the Irish diaspora, or an Ireland at least itself. Celts are often called plastic paddies or whatever. But yeah, I hope people of Irish descent around the world support the club. Moving on to number 22, as I said before, like I'd love for the club to be opened up. But at the same point, number 21, to recap, I'd love for the club to be opened up to all possible investors, shareholders, equity holders, and that kind of thing, sponsors and whatnot, to get all possible legal, as long as it's legal, all possible legal forms of investment and funding and that kind of thing, and trying to make sure that obviously the club doesn't fall foul of any rules, make sure it does everything legally and that kind of thing. But also I was thinking like my dreams about a connection for Italian football and Celtic together. I think that it'd be cool if people of both Irish and Italian descent invest into and even donate to and certainly sponsor, hopefully, Italian teams and Celtic as well. Number 23, with great power comes great responsibility. I hope the club does a lot for charity. But one of the things I love for Celtic do, again, and it's a point I've talked about in the past, but is I would love for Celtic to have sponsors that match what we give away, match our donations to charity. So if we give away 10% of our equity or 10% of our revenue or whatever, for one thing, I'd love for us to be tax exempt or at least pay the lowest amount of tax as possible, as long as we do it legally, and to work with local politicians, national politicians, and whatnot, especially for the charitable work the club does and that kind of thing, and as a form of reparation to come to. But another thing is to use that money to do lots of good stuff, and to have academies in developing nations, sports clubs in developing nations, and things like that, all around the world, hopefully. And I love for that to be like, please match the donations. So whatever we give to charity, hopefully a sponsor could come in and say, we have billions, but we can risk investing. So like, let's say the PIF, I'd love for the PIF and Qatar and Dubai and UAE and Arab nations generally, especially oil-rich nations, and even like maybe Norway and others, to invest in the club. But also they could sponsor the club and say, oh, we're going to take a risk. We can afford to take that risk. So those with big pockets, bigger bank accounts and that kind of thing, big pockets / bank accounts, could say, if Celtic give away, let's say 100 million to charity, to good causes, let's say to help tech development in Africa, STEM for Africa, help disabled people around the world, help young people around the world, old people around the world, disadvantaged people around the world and whatnot, and hopefully the 10% poorest people in all possible countries is one thing I'd love for Celtic to do, and to tackle poverty around the world and try to make sure everyone has a house, enough to drink, enough to eat, and that kind of thing. Providing clean water for developing nations and all sorts of great things. That the club would get that money given, like, so a sponsor would say, okay, you've given away 100 million, we're going to give you back that money, to say thanks for giving it to charity, and they could do that for their PR. So again, I know I've mentioned this before, but the club would benefit hopefully by, to buy better players, invest in their academies and things like that, and then the people who sponsor the club would hopefully benefit through their PR, even though it would cost them, but hopefully it'll make them more money in the longer term, which I suppose is the reason why they do that sort of thing, for sponsorship. And also the charity, or the people who need the help, hopefully will benefit as well, ideally. God willing and Godspeed. So yeah, I hope that all makes sense. Yeah, I'd love for the club to be tax exempt for the charitable work it does. Number 24, I'd love for the club to have supporters and supporters clubs, academies, I think that sort of thing all over the world, and to work with local, regional, and national politicians and Celtic / Gaelic political parties like the SNP, Plaid Cymru, or however you pronounce them, Fianna Fáil, and all these different Irish and Scottish and Welsh political parties and that kind of thing. Again, Catholic, sorry, not Catholic, Gaelic, Antric, or so Celtic, or Gaelic, especially Celtic political parties, or maybe almost as much like Gaelic political parties, but obviously given the name Celtic, hopefully capitalising on that network with Celts, and again also maybe getting Celts to invest in the club from around the world. So once again, I'd love to see as much investment, sponsorship, donations to the club, and that kind of thing, and all possible legal forms of money, funding, or whatever, to the club as possible. Number 25. One of the things I was thinking about is, for some reason, the number 25 reminds me of like monarchies versus republics, but I prefer republics. And thinking about reasons to support Celtic, which is one of the things I was trying to think about for these videos, is like, I don't know, again, I've talked about it in the past, but I'd love for, as well as like Catholics and non-WASPs, non-white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, people who are not white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, and that kind of thing, and as many groups and organisations as possible, is I would love for republics and Republicans, like, i.e. people who support republics. So people who are favourable for republics, like a campaign group here in Britain, which is called Republic. People who support that. But yeah, people who prefer a Republican form of government to support Celtic, given Celtic's roots. I'd also love for like Celtic supporters to boycott the British military as much as they can, and that kind of thing, and wars, and that kind of thing, weapons trade, and that kind of thing. Number 26, also anti-imperialists for Celtic. I'd love for anti-imperialists to support Celtic, either as fans or financial supporters, backers, and that kind of thing. So to have shares, equity, and that kind of thing in the club, to invest into the club, donate to the club, and sponsor the club as well. And also, I'd love for the club, I suppose it goes, I don't know, true pronged is the right way of saying that. Double-edged sword, I'm not sure how to explain it. I suppose it goes both ways. I'd love for Celtic to give back to like victims of abuse, especially that happened in what was called the Boys Club, and hopefully they have lessons from that, most importantly as well. So I'd love for them to give back to the victims, apologise for it, give back to those victims as much as the club can do, and also like maybe even give $1 million to each victim if the club can afford that, or whatever the right amount is, or whatever. What do you think the right amount for something like that would be? I'd love to know. And learn lessons from it, most importantly, perhaps. And but yeah, compensating victims of abuse, and also even helping people who are victims of abuse generally, and also talking about learning from such and make sure it doesn't happen in the future. But also, I think Celtic should be reparated for the harsh treatment of the Irish diaspora when they had to flee Ireland and the potato famine and leave their home country, and also the discrimination they suffered in Scotland, in Glasgow and across Scotland. I'd love for Celtic to work together with Hibernian, to say like, let's work together to get compensation for harsh treatment of the Irish diaspora, especially in Britain itself. I suppose that would be a fair deal, I think. And again, I'd love to know what a fair deal would be for that kind of thing as well, for the potato famine, and again for discrimination against Irish people. Because I suppose if Irish people got compensation, reparations, and whatnot in Britain or around the world, I guess Celtic is is a club which I hope most Irish people are sort of behind, as well as the Hibs as well. And again, they could work together and say, let's look at whether we can get reparations for that. And I'd love for Celtic to be tax exempt and do a lot of good stuff for charity. Number 27, once again, I hope there'll be people who match the donations given to charity and that kind of thing. So, yeah, as I talked about in point number 23, hopefully that will be the reward for the club. So I was thinking like of figures. I know I sometimes think of these hypothetical figures, what ifs, imagine ifs, and that kind of thing. And again, hypothesis, that's a big word for me. Hypothetical, that's another big word for me. Hypothetical situations. So I'd say if the club had, let's say, 100 million in prize money over time, and Troko, again, over time had 100 million in revenue and could be tax exempt, the club could give to a lot of good causes. And again, people can match that funding. So if we gave away 100 or even a couple of 100 million, if we had one group or investor that was a sponsor to match that giving, we would get, I guess we would get our money back. But then if we had two, we'd double the money we give away. So if we gave away 100 million, we would have 200 million, obviously minus the 100 million we give away. So we'd actually be 100 million better off. And if we had 1,000 people who matched that sponsorship, 1,000 different businesses who could afford to do so and took that risk, we would actually, I think of figures, I think it came to about 9 billion or something like that, which I think would be pretty cool. And I'd love for FIFA and UEFA to give us the rights to reinvest that money into buying better players and developing the academies. Again, similar, I'd want similar for town teams. So hopefully, the more we give away to charity, the more we would get back in investments, donations to the club, and sponsorship. And I guess we could be rewarded for the good work we do by getting more supporters around the world, including like pro-Palestinian people, for instance. I try and be as neutral as possible, but also the work we do in like Kenya, Mali, and places like that. Hopefully, we get that money back, plus some, as they say. So hopefully, there'll be multiple fold. In fact, number 28. I hope we can turn negative situations into positives. Number 29. I'd love to see what I talked about, like what mentally ill people and people with neurodivergent conditions could contribute to Celtic in terms of our ideas and that kind of thing, but even our investments, and if we could donate to the club, sponsor the club, and that kind of thing as well, and show what we can achieve. And number 30, I hope these videos are not too cringeworthy and last for as long as possible, and hopefully benefit Italian football and Celtic respectively. And on that note, I hope I haven't forgotten anything